Hey everybody, Payments Professor here, welcoming you back to another Payments Podium. And today we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about Payments Innovation Alliance, or what a lot of us affectionately call PIA, because we work with ACH and, there's the PPD and the CCD and everything's a three-letter acronym. But you're going to find out and understand a little bit more about what PIA, or Payments Innovation Alliance, is. We did a podcast just a few months ago about what is Nacha, and that ties in a little bit to what Payments Innovation Alliance is. But before I keep going on anymore, can I welcome Jennifer West from Nacha to the Payments Podium? Jennifer, say hi.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, Jennifer, I got to tell you, the first question that we ask everybody who comes on the Payments Podium is, how in the world did you get started in electronic payments? Because only one time ever has somebody said, I was playing banker as a kid and I wanted to grow up and be in electronic payments. Most people, we got here because, I was working in IT and was a teacher. And suddenly here I am working for a software company. Next thing I know, I'm working with, payments association. So it's an interesting journey. How did you end up where you're at today?
Okay, payments. Well, I came to Nacha from my experience at working at other trade associations prior to this. But in my earlier life, 100 years ago, I actually did work at some banks. So I did have some banking experience that really tied in with working on the association side.
So your path was some banking, get away from banking, work with some associations not necessarily associated with electronic payments, to working with an association totally about electronic payments.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, we're here today to talk about Payments Innovation Alliance, what it is, what it does, why it's so cool. Payments Professor endorsed. I'm going to go ahead and say, if you guys are listening and you're wondering about what you need to be doing to improve your career, help your financial institution or your business, Payments Innovation Alliance is the answer. But first of all, what in the world is Payments Innovation Alliance? I get this question all the time. I just tell people, PIA, you need to be part of it. But what do you tell people when they ask, what's Payments Innovation Alliance?
Yeah, so we're a membership program under Nacha, which is great. And while Nacha is specifically focused on ACH, I think the beauty of the Payments Innovation Alliance is that we talk about ACH, but we get to talk about everything else payments related. So it really helps us draw a diverse membership group. So while we've got financial institutions, fintechs, payment processors, regulatory agencies, governments, law firms, anyone who's involved in payments should probably be part of the alliance.
Wait. You just mentioned the entire industry right there. So let's go back. Payments Innovation Alliance, it's part of Nacha, but it's not just ACH payments. In fact, from my experience, I understand you do a lot more than just ACH payments. I've been to meetings and discussions where I've heard things about ACH, of course, same day ACH, FedNow, RTP, cards, even checks. So would you say the Payments Innovation Alliance is really all things electronic payments?
All things. Yes, I would say that.
One more thing you said too is it's not just banks and credit unions, or what we call FIs, financial institutions. You mentioned service providers. I heard regulatory aspect of things. Yeah. And you even said something like lawyers that come in and talk about this, some of the firms that come in. So does that mean that really anybody can join the Payments Innovation Alliance?
Anybody can join.
All right. But it is primarily financial institutions, right?
I think if you look at our membership makeup right now, we're probably at about 40% financial institutions, but the others is a pretty good mix. So yeah.
That's actually really surprising to me, because I've been around for a while working with Payments Innovation Alliance. I was at the very first Payments Innovation Alliance meeting, and I don't think I've missed but one since the actual alliance started. Could you tell us a little bit about the history? Because I know for me, I go back to the days of ECC, Electronic Check Council. And I remember we used to have these things called mega meetings, and there were things like the Internet Council. How did Payments Innovation Alliance come about?
Yeah, so back in the day, as you remember, the Nacha had a whole bunch of councils, and they were really focused on specific areas. So like you mentioned, the Electronic Check Council, which is actually how I got started at Nacha. I was working on the Electronic Check Council, but we also had the Internet Council, the Council for Electronic Billing and Payments, the Global Payments Forum. So all of those were individual councils that we had. And we had a lot of members that were doing a little bit of everything. And they kept asking us why we just have to focus on this one specific thing, but we're members of all of these. So like you mentioned, we started forming the skeleton, I guess, of the alliance through doing mega meetings. And then our membership really enjoyed, all coming together. And so we formed the alliance 10 years ago. We'll actually be celebrating our 10-year anniversary at our fall meeting in October. So I'm excited about that. But we really wanted to make sure that, again, they could talk about everything payments and not just those specific topics that were covered in ECC or the Internet Council or such. And so when we put it together, we also built kind of a leadership structure that really helped make sure we were covering, the entire payments landscape. So we have...
Wait. Are you serious? It's been 10 years?
I know.
Oh my, because like I said, I was at the first meeting. It's been 10 years of Payments Innovation Alliance. And I know a lot's been done in those 10 years. And you were talking about the leadership structure. What's the leadership structure? What's that really mean?
Yeah, so we have elected advisory committees and they serve a 2-year term. We actually just sat our brand new advisory committees at the beginning of January. But like I said, to kind of make sure that we're covering all things payments, they have specific focus areas to make sure that they're infused throughout everything we do in the Alliance. So we have an advisory committee for consumer payments, business payments, emerging payments, global payments, and we have a risk, regulatory, and security advisory committee as well. So when you look at like the work that we're doing, or you look at our agendas, you will see that we're always talking, about those 5 kind of areas.
So those 5 committees, those are kind of like subgroups within Payments Innovation Alliance?
Nope, that's our leadership committee. So those are the elected leaders who kind of help us set like the strategy, and the focus for the year. Yeah.
So those are the areas that they look at, making sure that the alliance itself is covering.
Yep. And there's a lot of crossover. So right now, like AI is really big. And I just met with each of the 5 advisory committees because they determine what their 2024 focuses will be. And AI came in and like all of them. So AI impacts consumer payments and business payments and risk and regulatory, So you'll see that they work really hard in making sure that when we look at something in the payment space, we're also coming at it from very, different perspectives as well.
Okay, well, I mentioned subgroups. So could you tell me about the subgroups, what they are, or at least tell the listeners what the subgroups are?
Okay.
Because I get excited about those too.
Right. So we call them project teams. And that's really, I think, kind of the heart of the Alliance. Like that's where the work gets done. And it's all volunteer driven. So we currently have 5 active project teams. They're the ACH for Developers Guide, the Consumer Financial Exploitation, Cybersecurity Response, and Payments AI, Navigating Digital Payments, and our newest one is Quantum Payments. And anyone who's a member can be involved in one or as many project teams as you like. The great thing I will say about membership in the Alliance, not to do a plug, but it's kind of a plug, is that it's organization based. So anybody in your organization, once you join, has access to all of the benefits that we provide, discounts, but we also do members only webinars and participation in our project team. So it's not limited to just one person. It's anybody in your organization can participate.
All right, we're going to leave that as a teaser for right now because I got to go back to some of these project teams. I know I've been part of the project teams in the past. And like, I remember one of the big things that we did on one of the teams was we built some cybersecurity guidance and checklists that people could do. We did a thing with voice activated payments and what you can do to keep your Alexa from, I can't say her name, otherwise she's going to get all upset right now, from protecting you. And like it gave guidelines. And I remember there were people from all over the industry involved in that. But now you're talking about things for the development teams. You mentioned consumer exploitation, which is always a hot topic. In fact, some of the consumers that follow the Payments Podium tell me, how come they don't do more to protect me? Well, I'm letting y'all know there's a lot that has been done up front to be able to protect you. Then you talked about cybersecurity. navigating digital, but quantum payments?
Mind
What
blowing.
is quantum? Wow, that I'm not going to ask you what that one is. I'm going to have to go to the next meeting and find out more about that one on my own. But it sounds like just being part of the project teams as just a subgroup, but a project team part of Payments Innovation Alliance, you can get a PhD in payments.
Yeah. That's the other thing I'd say about our project teams is a lot of times people feel intimidated in joining or participating on them because they're not an expert. But we really encourage our members, like, even if you just want to learn about the topic or it's interesting to you, there's value for you, but there's also value for us as the project team, because you will have some insight, or you might ask questions that we didn't think of because we're looking at it from up here. And so really the goal and the mission of all of the project teams is to create, either education, awareness, or tools for the entire industry. So we really need anyone who's just kind of learning and may ask the right question to help us, as we pull together our deliverables. And we need the experts too. So, yeah.
Well, I tell people this all the time. They're like, how did you get to know so much about payments? And I tell them I just read a lot. But one of the big things that helped me early in my career is, like I said, I did go to some of those early council meetings. I was part of Payments Innovation Alliance from the beginning. And there were a lot of times, believe it or not, the payments professor sat in a room and just shut up and listened, because that was all that, I could offer at that point in time in my career. And you sit there and it's like there's so much information being exchanged that you're just going to absorb by like osmosis, incredible knowledge from all these people. But to me, that also brings out something I think is one of the biggest benefits of Payments Innovation Alliances. You can be a member of these project teams, but the people that you get to meet and the education that comes along with it. Would you agree?
I think it's the biggest, like, we do a member survey every year and we ask, why do you join? Why do you stay? And the networking always comes up. I think people look at networking as, oh, we go to a reception. I think it's more than that with the Alliance, and not to get cheesy or whatever, but we really do view ourselves kind of as a community, right? So we're all in there. Everything that you say and do within the Alliance kind of remains in the Alliance. At the meetings, we follow the Chatham House rule. But you're sitting at a table or you're on a project team meeting with others who are having the same like challenges or issues you may have. And there's so much information sharing. And you really do develop this whole network of resources that are available to you. We have members all the time that call other members, just because they want to kind of, work out a solution or throw something off of them, And so, yes, I agree. I think it's the number one benefit of being part of the Alliance.
Friends now in other states and countries.
Yeah.
Countries.
Yeah.
That I have hung out with outside of payments because of the Payments Innovation Alliance. But I want to go back a little bit to low rewind. All right. On the project teams, and you were mentioning organizations join, not necessarily individuals join. So if somebody's listening and let's say that their bank or maybe they're a part of a fintech and they want to be part of the project teams, what do they need to do? And does that mean that they have to go to like a bunch of in-person meetings, or are they meetings online? How's that work?
Yeah. So for a project team, as long as your organization is a member, you can participate. Most of our project teams meet monthly and they're by Zoom. So there's no travel involved, no extra expenses. And they pretty much have standing calls. So you set them, like at the beginning of the year, we set the day and the time, and sometimes there's changes, but so the biggest thing is a time commitment, usually about an hour a month, except for when we're working on a deliverable, you may be, tasked with something or asked to volunteer to do something that may take up a little bit of time outside of the actual call. Some of the project teams have so much going on that they will develop subgroups within that project team, and they may meet as their own just to get their section done or their part done. Yeah.
So, okay, for clarification, people can join an organization joins the alliance, and then the employees, people that are part of that organization, whether it's a bank or a fintech or even regulatory, they can then participate in online meetings. They don't have to go in person. They can participate in online meetings. Can you have multiple people from one organization be in multiple subgroups?
Yes. Yep.
All right. I think that's a huge benefit too.
There is no limit to the amount of people in your organization that can participate. The only time that comes into play is kind of our in-person meetings, and it's usually not an issue.
Well, you did mention a reception, so I was going to say, how's this reception take place across Zoom? Tell me more about the in-person meetings.
Oh, the in-person meetings are awesome. So that's really a way where you've been working with these people pretty much virtually. And so 3 times a year, we come together and we connect in person. It's great. I don't even know how to explain the meetings. I usually call them an experience. It's not a conference and it's more than a meeting. And I always say the best way to kind of figure us out is to come to one of those. And so we have 3 a year. 2 of them are based in the US. One is international. But all of them are, there's great sessions, there's great speakers, there's always networking activities, that are included. So it's good.
And I got to say, I love the in-person meetings. It's one of those things that every year when I'm setting my schedule, I put down when are the PIA meetings going to be, block it off in my calendar because I know I'm going to be there. And for those of you listening, the way that Nacha has set these up to is great for working individuals. Because the way the agendas have worked, at least in the past, and I know they are moving forward too, is they'll be in a major city. You're able to fly in on the morning of when the meeting starts because it'll start, in the afternoon. It doesn't start first thing in the morning, day one. You get the afternoon of day one. You have a nice reception. We have full meetings day 2, and then day 3 is a half day. You're able to leave at lunch, go get on a plane and get back home. I love how you take into consideration the busy professional schedule, yet cram so much wonderful material into those sessions.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention Chatham House rules, those rules where what's said in the meeting stays in the meeting. It's like nobody talks about Fight Club. I mean, PIA, outside of PIA. But can you give us an idea of what those discussions are like without breaking anybody's anonymity?
Yeah, I mean, we do. So we really encourage any speaker that we bring in, we tell them our folks don't want to sit there and have a presentation, right? So we encourage all of our sessions to be very interactive. So there's always like Q&A going on. But we also like something we've been doing a lot more the past two years since we went back to in-person after COVID, was doing some kind of exercise. So we try to do, a quick icebreaker. So if you don't know anyone, you get to know the people at your table a little bit. But then there'll always be, and usually on day 2, because it's the longest day, we try to break it up and have like a group or a team exercise. But it's not just goofy fun and games. I mean, we're actually working on an issue. You mentioned earlier kind of our cybersecurity tabletop exercise. We built a whole cybersecurity tabletop exercise kit around exercises we were actually doing at the meetings. So it's worthwhile and it's fun and very engaging.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the things I tell people is if you want to know the future of payments, go to a PIA meeting and get in those discussions. Because a lot of things that are being discussed there, I bring back to my organization and I say, hey, this isn't happening right now, but it's going to in the future because these are the top minds in payments getting together and having these discussions. Now, you also mentioned an international meeting. I thought this was more domestic US based. Why is there an international meeting?
Well, our members are all over the world. But part of that is, when we did away with the councils and formed the alliance, we still had a membership base that was the Global Payments Forum. And they wanted to be sure that we were still looking at global payments, which is why we actually have a Global Payments Advisory Committee. So we have this international meeting once a year. It's our spring meeting. And it's a smaller meeting, but it is so focused on everything that's happening in payments kind of internationally. And one of the reasons that we go either across the pond or wherever we end up internationally is because it gives us access to the experts over there who are doing things or have done things that maybe in the US we're still looking at or considering. So I think it's valuable for everyone. I mean, even if you're not in the global payments space, I think there's a lot for US companies to be learning from what what they've seen or what they've done. So,
well, I'm going to give a plug for it because I absolutely love the international meeting. My previous organization would never let me go to the international meeting. The one I'm with now insists upon it. And the reason being is like, for example, last year, Lisbon, Portugal. What a wonderful location. What an incredible meeting. I sit down at a random table and there are 4 people at that table that are heads, presidents, CEOs of payments for countries. Some of them for multiple countries. And I'm like, what? And before I left, they're in my phone. They are contacts that I've been able to keep in touch with that I can say, hey, I'm having this problem here in the US. Can you tell me what you guys did to resolve it? And they'll laugh and go, yeah, we fixed that a few years ago. And here's how.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing that, I remember my early days of PIA and the people I met, but you go to the international meeting and you really get the global perspective of what the future of payments is like and what's happening. So I got to applaud you for having those meetings. They're incredible.
And the one thing I'll say is, like, at the global meeting, because it is smaller, we always do a no-host dinner, and pretty much everybody at the meeting goes to that. And so, like, you're talking about the head of payments in over a country, he's sitting at dinner with you, just chatting it up. It's a great time. Yeah.
Yeah. Folks, if you're listening, you're probably wondering, how do you get signed up and become part of Payments Innovation Alliance? We're going to let Jennifer explain that in just a second. But I'm telling you, the benefits are amazing from what you get from the domestic twice-a-year meetings, the international once-a-year meetings, the online project teams that you get to be a part of, the connections that you make, that what gets produced. If you're not part of PIA, you need to be part of PIA. Again, Payments Professor endorsed. But Jennifer, people listening are probably going, all right, I want to sign up. I want to be part. How do they do that? What do they need to do?
They could just go to our website, and there's a join. I think there's a join now button on there. So I don't know if we can maybe insert the link maybe or something, or
is it nacha.com, or
you could go to Nacha. You could go to www.nacha.org and look under membership. You'll find Payments Innovation Alliance. The one thing I'll point out is, if you're going to our website and you go to the Payments Innovation Alliance website, we also just launched at the end of December our annual report. I think that's a great piece for everyone to look at, because it really gives you an overview of everything that we've talked about. And we brag a little bit about ourselves. Our project teams put out 10 brand new industry deliverables last year. And so there's all that information, kind of very succinct, quick and easy read online. So definitely go to the Nacha website under membership, look at Payments Innovation Alliance. And when you get to our homepage, you'll see our annual report is right at the top.
Okay, the annual report. I might need to go read that too. One more question. Is there anything I missed that anybody else, listening should know about Payments Innovation Alliance, or they should consider if they're considering, joining, that they need to know?
No, I feel like we covered it all, but if we didn't, the one thing that we love to do is, myself and Jamie Center also works with me on the Alliance, is if anyone has any questions or you're considering joining and you want to do a deeper dive, we love having phone calls with folks. We want to find out what you are looking for and that we're the right fit. And then we explain kind of what we're about. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Jamie, because she's my hero.
Yeah, she's everybody's hero.
I'm like, Jamie, where do I find this? Where do I need this?
Yes.
And she replies in seconds sometimes, keeps me on track. But one last question, out of all these meetings you've been to over the years, what's like one of your most favorite memories from attending the in-person events that can be shared with the general public?
My favorite, it's hard. This sounds so corny, but every meeting I have, I'm like, that was the best meeting ever. And then it happens again. And I was like, that was the best meeting ever. And I could probably highlight a few sessions and things like that, but mostly it's the experience that I'm having with the members. So when I look back, the sessions are great. The speakers are great, but I think it's these conversations that we have. And, probably not worthy of your podcast here, but last year you mentioned we went to Portugal and I got to bring my daughter with me. And so that's not Payments Innovation Alliance related. She did go to our no-host dinner with us, and she was exposed to all of the payments professional. She has no idea what I do, and she for sure is not interested in my career. But it was a great experience. So I look at that as a highlight, at least for last year. Yeah.
I got to say, I bet there's a bunch of people listening that go, I would love to bring my son or daughter or spouse with me so they could see and maybe understand one day what it is I do. But Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. I got to say, one of my favorite memories was the plate.
Yeah, you said we're not allowed to talk about that.
I'm going to leave it at that and just say, folks, if you want to learn more, Jennifer West, she's with Nacha. I will be putting up some links that you'll be able to see, click here so that you can get in touch with her. Jennifer's also on LinkedIn. You can find her there, nacha.org. I said .com earlier. That's wrong. It's nacha.org. You can go and find out more about Nacha, the Payments Innovation Alliance, all kinds of things. And if there's a topic or if maybe there's a speaker out there that you'd like to learn more about or hear on the Payments Podium, email me, Kevin@paymentsprofessor.com. I will do what I can to get that topic addressed or to get that speaker on the podium. But for now, I gotta say, class dismissed.